Welcome back to Pin Pals, the podcast about enamel pins. I'm your host, Eric from Warrior Pins, and thanks for joining me today. I have a great episode lined up this week, but before we do the intro, I just want to give a quick shout out to Data Crew and BB Create for being the first supporters of the podcast to buy me a coffee. I know it still sounds funny, and it's still kind of mind-blowing, but it's also inspiring and motivating. We chatted via the DMs and exchanged pleasantries. Very grateful for their kind words and their support. Thank you guys. Muchas gracias. If you want to buy me a coffee, you can do that via the show notes. Anyway, back to today's episode. I chatted up with pin maker Kristy Lee about her shop EXP Gained, EXP standing for experience. We talk more about her name and how she came up with it later on in the episode. We met through one of those enamel pin Facebook groups. I don't know if it was Pin Nation or Enamel Pins. There's quite a few of them out there. I was looking for guests for the show, and she was one of the handful of replies I got. And after checking out her work, I quickly became a fan, and here we are. We're talking about how Kristy started making pins and what that process looks like. We talked Tik Tok, which for me was pretty interesting. Her various marketing initiatives, which are really cool, and so much more. I think I've said this before on the podcast, but this conversation, I just felt really inspired. I even started using TikTok because of this conversation and making TikTok, so I hope you guys can get something out of this. So without further ado, let's jump into my pinversation with my pin pal, EXP Gained. Welcome to Pin Pals, Kristy. How's it going?
Good. You know, hanging in there, still in a pandemic, trying to stay in.
Yeah.
But how are you?
Doing all right, trying to see the positive every day. We're almost there. I feel like we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Actually, I just scheduled my first vaccination for next week.
Did you? Awesome.
So I'm really excited, finally eligible, just was patiently waiting. Hopefully things, haven't been too bad on your end with the pandemic.
It's been fine. Fortunately, I'm able to work remotely. So I also have like a day job. So I've been very lucky to be able to work remotely. So I don't have to go out and like drive and do all that. So, or interact with anyone, which is, I don't know if that's a good thing either, but, at this point, it's like, just grateful for where I am, like the position I'm in. So I don't really have any, I don't have the vaccine yet. It's funny because like Kaiser is literally right across the street and I can't get it. So I'm just like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna have to wait. So just kind of waiting until it can open up. Like they just, like I'm in Washington and they just opened up the 16 and up category. So, but they literally just released it like a few days ago. So I think it's gonna be a while before I'll actually be able to get an appointment. But it's very exciting to know that it's kind of like right around the corner.
Yes, very exciting. Let's get into our conversation. Why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners?
So my name is Kristy. I am the owner of EXP Gained / Shopco, which I will explain a little bit why there's like two names. And I've been doing this. I've only been in this for like about a year, 2 years. 2020 has been kind of like a void. So I don't really count that year, but yeah, I started like mid 2019. So okay. Literally, right, I did like one show and then everything shut down. So it's been kind of like crazy, like just trying to get out there. But I just kind of have kept going with the brand and like pushing out new designs and everything, because fortunately, again, like I work during the day. So that has kind of like fed into the brand itself. So I do this totally on the side and just for fun. But again, like it's EXP Gained and Shopco because I originally started off of Etsy, right? Because it's a great marketplace to have, just to have customers come in. Because I've found like, especially with Instagram's algorithm and like just social media algorithms, like it's just been really hard. And yeah, it's just like almost impossible without being in front of people. So I was using Etsy and they didn't have EXP Gained, but I was like, oh man, it's such like a good handle because EXP Gained basically means just experience gained. And it's kind of like influenced from video games and stuff. Like, you like level up and you get more skills. And I was like, oh, this is very applicable to life. So I'm like, this is a great handle. And I got it for Instagram. I got it for a website. And I was like, no, I can't let this go just because Etsy won't let me. So I just ended up holding the EXP name and then using EXP Shopco for Etsy. And then once like I kind of got enough designs going, I got the website name and everything. So I kind of float between both right now, but like legally I'm like EXP Shopco.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. But
Yeah.
strategically done. I like it. It all just kind of works together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's really cool. And your shop, the pins that you've make, it's I don't want to say it's all over the place.
Mhm.
But they're very you have these like series and these niches. Like I love your Animal Crossing designs
Oh,
and your
thanks.
plant daughters
Uh-huh.
and the national parks series. Like that's awesome.
Mhm.
So kind of talk to me about like the kind of pins that you're making.
Yeah. So when I first started, again, like the whole concept was based off of like video games and like and just leveling up in life and all that stuff. So I actually started with like potions. My first pin was actually like this potion pin because I want to start out something with something small and like a simple design. I guess you can say I'm also a little bit lazy, so I'm not someone who likes to like sketch and then like I want to skip steps basically. So I was like, let's just go straight into just drawing it and then like having it ready to manufacture. And I did all the research myself to find a manufacturer and everything. And then I think when I got my first pin, I just got really excited and I was like, this is so awesome. I made a drawing into like a physical object. And then it kind of just went from there. Like I made more potion pins. Those are like the second and third ones I made. But then I'm also very into hiking and being outdoors. So I noticed that when I was going to national parks, there wasn't really any pins that I really like to collect. Like I actually had stopped collecting for a while. I used to collect a lot when I was a kid, but I kind of stopped. And then I figured like, oh, I'm already into like making pins. Like, why don't I just start collecting again? So I started looking for national park pins. And when I kind of noticed that there wasn't really much out there, I was like, I'll just make my own, I guess, even though there's like 60 of them. So so that's how I kind of got started with that. And then I figured the name could kind of translate into that because, you know, you're hiking a mountain, like there's a goal there. And there's like, it's not about reaching the summit. It's all about like the experience along the way, like what you see along the way, the people you
Mhm.
go with. So I kind of was able to, I was like, this will work. This will stretch over to there. So yes, you are correct where a lot of my work is kind of everywhere, but it's just more of like, I'll just, you know, have fun with it and just won't order as many and hope that they sell. But and then I think like the biggest like learning curve has just been trying to get in front of the right people. Um, because like again, I started in 2019. Like the end of 2019 was when I got into my first show, and that was like Patches and Pins in SF
Mhm.
or in San Francisco. And that's when I really understood like, okay, I just need to get in front of the right people.
Yeah.
But but I got greedy as well, and I like applied for a bunch of other shows. I did a show at a mall. I made like -$8, like negative.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, this is not the right audience. So like,
Yeah.
I think overall, like that kind of has taught me where it's just an ongoing effort of just trying to find the right people. I guess. I sorry, I like kind of strayed off there, but
No, it's okay. That's pretty interesting. We'll talk more about vending and stuff like that, but you're
Mhm,
definitely like people are liking they like your brand because of you. Because all the
mhm,
pins that are being released stem from like your hobbies, is what it
mhm.
seems like. So
Yeah.
they're like a big fan of you, supporting you and like your hobbies, and it just it creates this really nice community within EXP
Mhm,
because you're very passionate about what you're releasing, and that's
mhm,
really awesome. And I think that plays a part into trying to find your audience. You know,
mhm,
they'll see kind of like beyond the pins and then just kind of look at the maker behind the
mhm.
pins and connect with you that way.
That's very kind. I was like, I guess I don't think about it because you're just constantly in it. So you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna make whatever. And then so just to hear that it's very heartwarming and it's very kind to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And this isn't no BS. Like, I try and do some solid research on who's going to be on the podcast. And a couple days before, I'll spend some time going through the feeds and through the
Mhm,
websites just to kind of come up with some talking points. And I just couldn't help but like just be in awe, like the branding, your aesthetic, like on Instagram. We can talk about this more later, but like everything just seems very cohesive. So it all just kind of circulates with each other. So like even if your pin series kind of seem not related, it's all because of the branding.
mhm.
It's all very cohesive, and it's very
Yay.
impressive. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So I'm really curious on your process
Mhm,
from idea to reaching out to a manufacturer to selling it and getting in front of people? What's that process look like? You kind of mentioned it before. You're just kind of drawing it. What programs are you using? And if you can go into a little more detail.
Yeah. So I use Adobe Illustrator. So everything that I draw, I start there. So Adobe Illustrator is a vectoring program. Typically in the whole pin making process, a lot of times, people will have the idea, draw it on like a napkin, and then take a picture of it and figure out how to make it into a vector, which is like presentable. It's like presentable file to the manufacturer to translate into their proof. So you can approve it and then they can make it, because it needs to be clean, right? Like I've tried guiding a few people who are interested in pin making. It's like, think of like a pin artwork as like a coloring book. Like the lines need to meet, like, and colors need to be isolated. So a vectoring program kind of helps with that. So again, like I mentioned earlier, like I kind of wanted to skip the drawing, scanning, and cleanup section. So I start straight in Illustrator, and then cool. I just, I'm on just a regular laptop and I just use a mouse and just click around. So with Illustrator, the way it works is that you draw lines and stuff, and there's these things called handles, I guess. So you adjust the line. So a handle can make like curves more round or straight or whatever. So I just use that to kind of draw. So instead of like a pencil where you're drawing a line or whatever, I basically draw one line and then readjust it to the shape that I want it. So it looks very simple, but at the same time, I guess like the amount of time I'm spending in Illustrator to draw the whole thing is probably the same amount of time as me just drawing on a piece of paper and scanning and all that. So I think it's just where I've decided to allocate my time. So I start there, and then once the Illustrator work is done, like I've learned to assign colors to what I want. So basically I have a Pantone book. That's what a lot of makers use to make sure that they're choosing the right colors, because colors change when they're under different lights, or like our eyes, or how our eyes perceive it, or like how the computer screen perceives it. So a PMS book, Pantone book, is the best and most accurate way. And since I was like generating so many designs, I just ended up investing in it, because those things are expensive and they're flimsy, and it's annoying because you paid so much money, but it's worth it.
Don't they come out with one every year?
I think so. It's like either every year, like every other year, and you're like, there goes another couple $100 for color. Just to identify colors of a rainbow. Like it's rough, but I mean, it's well worth it if you're like really going into making a lot of pins and a lot of designs, or like you want to use a lot of colors. Definitely. So yeah, after that, I just send it off to the manufacturer. The manufacturer is someone I just had kind of like looked up and just researched on my own. And then it's just the waiting process after that, after I approve it. And then for the outreach part, I've tried Kickstarter. I've failed miserably with that. I also have like, I guess, an anxiety of like not being able to deliver. So, like I realized that I don't like the idea of not knowing how the product's going to end up before I promise or send it to someone. So I don't think I'm going to go down the Kickstarter route anymore. So it's literally just going to be me reinvesting my profits back into new designs. I'm just more comfortable that way, because I mean, it's unfortunate. I'm sure people have heard, but pin making is a very manual process, and it's just hard to like always blame the manufacturer, because already like you're doing it overseas, and like they don't get paid as much, and they're polishing by hand. So if there's a lot more orders for that factory, like it's kind of out of their control if they're trying to push out a lot of designs, and you get a lot of flaws. And I think with a Kickstarter, like what if you get a whole bunch that are messed up, your customer's gonna have to wait even longer. And like, it just makes me anxious, and I just don't want to deliver that. So, so I just think of a design, put it in, if I think it's going to sell, and then just hope for the best. And I think like the biggest challenge I've had, so I have like two major segments of my work. It's like national park stuff and more like gaming, animation, video game stuff. I noticed that for like the first pin I made was like a potion pin, and that's towards the gaming category. And I noticed it wasn't really selling. People liked it, but it just wasn't selling. And then it wasn't until I actually got to the convention, like the anime convention circuit, which I only did one show, but it like did great. So I saw
that picture. It was a nice booth.
Yeah. So, thank you. So that was like the first like 3-day event, like convention I actually did. It was a blast, met like awesome people. And I was like ready for more, and then everything shut down. So
Ah.
I was like, okay, so that kind of at least helped me gauge like, okay, I know my audience is there. It's just that like they're just in a different environment that I have to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And which is why I've kind of like held back on releasing more like potion stuff, just because it's really hard for me to sell them. So that's kind of like my start to finish ish.
Wow. Well, thank you for being very detailed with that. I don't think too many people will I think they'll understand the process and they'll relate to it. It seems pretty, on par with pretty much what everyone else does. But it's nice to just kind of see how, certain pin makers will use Procreate versus Illustrator and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
go into the nuances of that. And, a lot of them have their own particular reasons of
Mm-hmm.
selecting manufacturers and releasing pins you know, I I share that same anxiety with you in terms of like trying to set up a Kickstarter. It's not super expensive to get into, but when you're first starting and you don't know and you're just testing the waters, it's like, I don't know if I want to waste that kind of money. You don't know what
Right.
kind of return you're going to get. So then that might be a better option. Going with Kickstarter would be a better
Yeah.
option. But the fear of failing and then just putting in all that work and stuff like that
Yeah.
it just
Yeah, I mean, Kickstarters take a lot of work, like the whole setup,
yeah.
like you don't think about it and you're like, oh, you just put it up there and people like, back it up, right? It's like, no, like writing all of it out, having your designs ready and like getting all the pricing. It's a lot of work, and I think it's just more room for error and failure that makes me scared. I mean, like it totally works for a lot of people and I think people should do it. But
Mhm.
I think it's just personally it's rough.
It's
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 too
a
rough.
lot, and I think we met through one of the Pin Facebook groups.
Yeah.
So every now and then I'll see people post links to their Kickstarter on
Hmm.
there, and I'll take a look just to kind of get inspired, just kind of see what they're
Hmm.
doing. What are their tiers looking like and
Yeah.
whatnot. And it's like, oh my goodness, the amount of work that went into like making all the graphics and then explaining like the inspiration
Yeah.
and the write up and all that stuff. It's like, well, I mean, if I'm gonna do it, it's gotta look like
Yeah.
this, and this looks like it took forever, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
it
definitely did that. I was like
can
stalking other people's Kickstarters, like, what did you do? Like, oh, okay, that's a good idea. Yeah, totally stole ideas.
well, that's when the Facebook groups really come in handy because there's a
Hmm.
lot of people there just always willing to help out and
Yeah.
share information and stuff like that. Like there's a
Hmm.
lot of great people on those groups.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
those groups brought us together, so
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely.
proof that there are good people there, I think.
Yes.
What's been your most fun pin to design and make?
Mm, I think like I'm trying to think. I don't even know. I mean, I think overall, I mean, minus the national park stuff, I want to say like all the potion ones are more fun, especially if there's like characters or they involve characters. Like I try
Mhm.
to put more personality into them instead of just like a face. Um, and I get really excited about them when especially like the Ghibli stuff. I don't know if I'm butchering it, but the Studio Ghibli stuff. So that like I grew up with that animation, like or a bunch of those movies. So remaking them into like the bottled spirits collection, like that one, that's always been fun. And I think that one I've expanded more on,
Mhm.
just because I think of something I was like, oh, this would be fun to add, but that one, those give me a little bit more creativity or space to be more creative. But yeah, I don't know. It's just whatever comes through. Like I'm not even sure.
I like that. I'm sure all of your pins have their own special moment, when
Hmm.
designing them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
hard because, as like business owners, as pin makers, we kind of have to always be looking ahead at the next thing. So it's
Correct.
hard to kind of get like caught up in the current release when you gotta, with stuff like this, you kind of have to kind of constantly release pins. So
Hmm.
at least for us, we're thinking like 2, 3 months ahead, and we're
Hmm.
placing orders and stuff like that, like big
Hmm.
orders. So
Hmm.
we're set for the next couple months. So how has the pandemic affected the pin business at all, other than not being able to go to shows? Have you been able to kind of benefit from the pandemic? Have you seen more sales? What's
I
that?
don't. No, to be honest, because my history is not very long. So it's really hard to tell. Like I definitely feel like it's hard for me to sell like the potions and like that side, the
Hmm.
video game side. Because again, I think a lot of the like I've tried virtual events and stuff like that, and I would get like a few here and there, but it's not nearly as much as like going to a convention and people are there standing in front of your products and like getting to look at it closely and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, fortunately with Etsy, like I feel like in the outdoor space, there's not that much art. So I think like the national park pins have been doing really well on their own, just by themselves. Because again, there's not, I think there's only maybe one other competitor that's done a design for every park that's a
Hmm.
pin. So I think with that low competition threshold, like they've been doing really well,
Yeah.
which has allowed me to keep creating other things. So, but I'm really hoping like once we get past this pandemic hurdle, like I can really figure out like the best direction to go, because I've just been kind of like stumbling along because I don't really have anything to compare it to.
It's good to see that you're still keeping things moving and it didn't, completely freeze you and you still have, your health and fortune and job and all those things. So it looks
How
like it
about
didn't
you though?
affect
I'm just
you.
curious because you've been
I'm
in the
s-
game way longer than me. Like how you're doing.
was it was a bit of a struggle when it
Uh-huh.
first happened. There was like no sales like at all for March, April, and like some of May. Like
Yeah.
it was pretty tough. I had to cancel patches and pins.
Yeah.
I think that was like in plan for early April of last year.
Hmm.
Um, and with all the other things kind of happening in our country during the pandemic,
Yeah.
it felt a little weird kind of putting focus on the business when there were more important things to kind of be concerned and worried about.
Hmm.
So we started trying to turn some art to kind of create awareness, and we released a
Hmm.
Black Lives Matter turtle power like emoji pin, and
Hmm.
donated all the profits for that pin. um, so little by little, we've kind of been getting our footing back and gears in motion. Like
Yeah.
personally, the pandemic was also like really weird. I left my full time job just because
Oh.
I like it was a lot, to
Uh-huh.
handle. But I'll tell you, if I didn't leave that job, I don't think I would have started the podcast. So
Oh.
the podcast came out of the pandemic, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but the gears are getting back in motion. We're releasing pins. Everything's kind of like back to normal now.
Hmm.
Um, and maybe later this year we'll be back at events and
Yeah.
slinging pins confidently.
Hmm. Hmm.
In terms of advice, because we have a lot of new pin makers tuning in.
Hmm.
What's something that you've learned, in the time that you've been running EXP, that you'd wish that you'd learned or that you wish you had known when you first started?
I think pick your own colors. That was the pick your own colors for your pins. That was
Yeah.
like one of the first things I learned really quickly. Don't put 100% faith into your manufacturer. Communication is key. Basically, it's communication, right? So if you want your design to come out a certain way, like just be as explicit as you can about it. So again, like getting if you don't have Illustrator, that's fine. Like it's just more of like make sure your artwork is as clean as possible. Like I don't
Hmm.
know, use a Sharpie or something to make sure those lines are bold. And then like pick out your colors. Like you don't need to go buy a Pantone book because again, those things are an investment. But you can look up like online. There should be. I used to use a site where it was like color to PMS and like a PMS matcher. It's not 100%, but it'll give you at least a solid idea of like where it's going to kind of land. So at least you can call out like whatever colors you want to use, because it's not worth the back and forth.
Hmm.
You might as well just save yourself the time, and then like even if you call out the numbers and stuff, like the manufacturer will still give you a proof that you have
Yeah.
to approve. So you still are going to see like what's going to end up going to production anyways. So I think the communication is just key to like when you get your designs over to them. I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, if you're brand new, like sink your money into that first design just so you can get a feel for how the whole process works, because like I mean, even in the Facebook groups and stuff, like that's what a lot of people recommend anyways. Like don't go straight to Kickstarter because that's a lot of time you're investing into an
Hmm.
arena that you don't really know yet. So do the research, find a manufacturer that you think you can trust. I realized like when I first got my manufacturer and got the first pin, I don't think the quality was that great in hindsight, but I was like, I think I was just excited.
Yeah.
It's so great. I was like, this is awesome. And then I think now I don't think I would have accepted them, but I think like, it's building a relationship. Ultimately, they're humans on the other side. They're not just some robots making stuff. So like, be kind to them. Like they're again, these are handmade. So, things happen at the factory. Like, I mean, be upfront with them. I mean, be honest. Like if you get like terrible quality pins, like call them out for it. But at the same time, like don't nitpick them to like nothing, because ultimately you need a good relationship to make sure they're delivering on time, and like it'll just give you more leverage in the future. I think to like if there are quality issues, like they should remake them without a question, as long as you're like being kind to them about it. But if you're gonna be angry and nitpicky about it, like you're not building a good foundation. And if you go to a different manufacturer, do the same thing, you're gonna run out of options really quick.
Yes, I second all of that. Communication is key. Being thorough is key. We also use like a hex to Pantone converter. Like I think we just Googled that, and I was putting in like the hex codes for all the colors and just kind of ballparking everything. Well put. Well put. I don't have anything else to add. That's great advice for everyone new joining us or joining the pin game in the pin world. So let's talk about marketing. I mentioned this at the beginning of our conversation. I love your branding, your aesthetic, the photography. I don't know if that's an iPhone taking pictures or like you're really into photography. Like it's all very cohesive, and I love it and I see it and I appreciate it. Like I like those kind of things when I'm looking for brands and stuff like that. What's your approach to marketing? Like, are you actively thinking of all these things, or is it just happen to just come together like this?
It's actually very surprising that you're saying all that, because I feel like it's not put together. I feel like it's like still like a modge podge of just like, I don't even know. I mean, clear, like well-lit pictures it's always easier to see the details and everything. I am shooting everything from a phone. It's not anything fancy. I mean, I do have Adobe and all that. So like I use Photoshop to adjust and increase the light. Like right now where I live, like we're facing north. So the lighting is terrible. Like it's really hard for me to take pictures. All the old pictures was from when I was living in California, and that was facing sunlight. So natural lighting you can't compare it. You can't beat it.
Yeah.
So, but from marketing wise, like, again, like I came in a time where it was a pandemic. So it was like it was just trying to get out there without like being in front of people. So I've listened to like a lot of your other episodes, and I'm always curious like what else other people are doing. So thank you for doing this whole podcast. And like I get insight because again, I haven't been to shows. I haven't met that many people. So it's like really hard to pick other people's brains, because I'm like, I don't know what else people are doing. So like for the marketing stuff, like, Instagram is the main platform I use just because, visuals and stuff, but the algorithm's terrible. So especially recently. And I don't know with like the upcoming, I don't know if they're still going to move forward with some of the changes that they were talking about, but
wait, what changes?
I think
Hold the
they
press.
were like,
what are we talking
they were
about?
going to,
Hold the press. What are we talking about?
I don't know. Like I was like, I don't know. I remember seeing something where like they weren't going to allow like feed posts into your stories anymore, because like the feed posts, like they already are buried, right? So it's like that's why people were posting to their stories, just so like hey, like I posted something. They were thinking about removing that. So I think that was what I was panicking about. I was like, how is anyone going to see anything?
No. They're doing
like,
that. I heard that they were limiting people reposting TikToks to Instagram because they want you to use Reels.
The Reels? Oh, if they made it better.
Yeah, right?
That just reminded me, yeah, TikTok. I got onto TikTok recently because I'm like, all right, it seems like the platform's relatively new, so the reach is still pretty good, I guess. So I'm on there, but I just literally just started, so not too exciting. Facebook groups were good for a little bit. But they do kind of get buried sometime. I've used Reddit.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there's an enamel pin subreddit, I think. But yeah, that one's pretty good for promoting. I did hear that it's not that great for fan art because you can get flagged for it. So, but for original stuff, like I think that one's not bad. They actually have another subreddit for like pin projects, so like Kickstarters. So I was posting in there for a little bit. And also with the national park stuff, I was using the national park thread to promote my stuff every now and then, or graphic design. So Reddit's actually not bad. And I don't think anyone mentioned it on your previous episodes.
No, that's why it took me by surprise. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's very cool.
um,
You're finding that specific audience too who would
yeah.
be interested. Like you
Mhm.
can't go wrong, and it's all organic. And
Yeah.
I think as long as you come across being
Yeah.
authentic and
Mhm.
not salesy or anything like
Yeah.
that, you're usually
Yeah.
pretty good at like kind of promoting your stuff on Reddit.
Yeah. 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 Definitely read the rules to make sure that you can,
Yes.
because you don't want to get in trouble. I think Reddit was like the most interesting one. TikTok. I have a Twitter, but I'm kind of like floating along the lines of like there's too many things going on. Oh, and I also use Pinterest. That's another one I use that is,
Whoo.
I know. Well, it's like when I have time, I'll just like mass upload and schedule things so that they'll be
Yeah.
out there. But yeah, that's it. My main one is Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and the Reddit I haven't used in a while. But I
Okay.
like check it out every now and then to see what other people are doing.
Got it. Talk to me about TikTok because I just had a guest on not too long ago, and they were talking about TikTok and how they just got on. And I experimented a little bit with myself, but I'm like, how does a pin brand get onto TikTok? Like, I don't know what I'm going to be posting. Maybe I haven't done enough brainstorming, so I kind of want to pick your brain and figure out why you decided to go to TikTok and what TikToks can we expect from you.
Oh, um, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. So I went to TikTok because I knew the reach, like it's still new. So I feel like it's more like whatever you put out there, it's like it's gonna have a better reach for now. Like it'll probably change in the future. But I mean, TikTok, it's like a mini commercial, right? And on top of that, like from what I understand, like packaging videos and stuff and like behind the scenes, like small business stuff was like it's like a trending thing. So it's if you make those kind of videos and use the same like hashtag system,
Hmm.
whatever their popular hashtags, like those actually garner a decent amount of views. So because of that, I was like, all right, let's try it out. And I have been able to convert like a few people have come over and purchased stuff from it. So I think
Oh
it
wow.
does work. So I think like the kind of content you can expect is like, okay, I'm gonna pack an order. Or like, oh here, this is how I'm like vectoring something or drawing something. So it just gives a more like authentic feel behind the brand because they get to see the work that's behind the brand instead of just like, here's a very nice picture that just came out of nowhere.
Hmm.
And it just kind of gives your brand more of a voice. I also like to buy other like I collect pins too. So like I do unboxing there, just to show like how other people like package their stuff and like all the work and that goes into it, right? Like
Yeah.
and just and also get ideas
That's
every now and
awesome.
then. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was doing like some like pin business like tips, I guess, but those take more work. So I'm not consistent with that. But I figured it's a good platform just to just showcase more behind the scenes
Hmm.
and people can kind of identify with it or if they're curious of like getting into the whole pin business itself.
That's really interesting. I think I'm gonna have to turn what you just said into a clip once this episode gets released. That's really cool. So I'm still kind of a novice on TikTok. It took me
Mhm.
like an hour to make like my first TikTok and figure out all the nuances.
Yeah.
Um, but so I'm asking you, have you explored any of the pin hashtags? Are there pin related hashtags in TikTok?
There are. I haven't looked much further into them. I mean, they're just very general. I haven't done that much research into it, to be honest. Like it's very general stuff like, enamel pins or like, enamel pin maker. It seems like people really like pin shop, like I don't know. People like small business check. I don't know why. So that's good for like behind the scenes stuff. Um
Small business check, as in like that's the hashtag, small business
Yeah, that's like
check.
the hashtag that's been popular. Or package and order with me, like that's also like a really popular one that gets more traction.
Kristy, you're
Yeah, like
blowing my mind right now.
no, I mean
It's
technology is
real.
constantly changing and we're like have to keep up. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
looking at it right now. I just typed in enamel pins. Pin maker check. How to make enamel pins. How to make your
yeah,
own enamel pins. Things that I got from my enamel pin business that just made sense. Yo.
yeah. It's like
Wow.
mini videos, yeah. So it's really good. But I think it's just like getting over the curve of learning how to put together transitioning stuff, and you know,
Yeah.
you use a different part of your creative brain, so
Hmm.
it's just a new skill.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just a learning curve. Eventually, you'll
Hmm.
figure it out because that's that's how business works. You kind of just have to learn to adapt and learn these
Hmm.
new things and get into the latest trends and social media
Yeah,
platforms.
it's annoying.
Yeah, it's
Why can't it
annoying,
stay the same?
right? Like, especially when you get older too.
Yeah, I was like,
The
how
amount of patience you have
offensive.
just decreases every day.
Ugh, I'm in that boat.
um, that's really interesting. Do you see any other like platforms that you could possibly be on in the future? Clubhouse?
Um,
I'm asking people Clubhouse. Are you
I
all in on
I haven't
Clubhouse?
gotten an invite in. Like I
Okay.
have friends that are in it and they're like, "Oh, you should totally be in it and you can like, you know, tell people how many pins." I'm like, "Okay." But I'm still out here just like cuz it's still invite only, I think. So,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah.
Is
So I
it?
was just like, "Meh."
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, it'd be nice because then I feel like it's a really good platform for, yeah, again, like people interested in pins. Like I'm also because I'm like really into hiking and all that stuff, like I'm really into the sustainability part of it, of running like a
Hmm.
sustainable business. So I think, and I actually also work for a packaging company during the day. So like all that information, I feel like it's pretty important as we're trying to like, you know, as a society trying to save Earth from burning, even though
Yeah.
everyone's kind of burning at this point. But yeah, I don't know. Like Clubhouse would be great. It sounds like a really good platform, but again, it's invite only, and I'm not in it yet. So if it opens up, maybe. But I don't know. It's
I'll
another
send
thing.
you an invite. I'm still trying to understand. One of my cousins had an invite. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh,
Came out of the blue. I didn't even ask her. I just got it. I'm like, okay, this is
oh,
cool.
sweet.
So
Yeah.
we'll link up afterwards. I'll
Okay.
get you an invite to
Awesome.
see
Yay.
if it's worth it. You mentioned that you try and keep run a sustainable business. What
Hmm.
efforts are you taking to achieve that?
So I'm trying to I mean, I don't think pin making is very sustainable. I mean, fortunately, fortunately, like it's made of metal, so that's good. That's
Hmm.
100% like recyclable and reusable. But I think like just everything else, like just I think like everything else, like the packaging, to like what we stand for, I guess, like it's really important part of our brand. Um, like for all like the packaging is probably the most control we have for like to making sure that we're sustainable. So like we everything we use is like paper. We avoid tape. We just really try to avoid plastic at all costs. Even though it is a little bit more expensive, but it's like, I mean, this is my decision, my brand. Like I will do what I can to make sure that we have as little impact as possible.
Hmm.
When it takes to like consuming resources, like it's just hard because like working in like a packaging company and knowing the impacts and the lasting effects of like our consumption, it's hard to just turn a blind eye when like you have power to choose to not contribute to it. So because of that, like we really try to just look for the next option to make sure it's sustainable, or recyclable or whatever we can do.
Cool. I
Yeah,
applaud that effort. Not a lot
thanks.
of people take that. And I'll admit, I've wasted a good amount of plastic.
Yeah, it's hard.
When you get the pins from the manufacturer, like they have
Yeah,
to send
yeah,
them,
they
otherwise they're
have
going
to
to
send them.
get scratched up.
Yeah, so like that's one thing that I asked my manufacturer to do. I asked them to wrap it in paper so they're not using individual bags for everything. I know some other people I've seen like other people ask their manufacturer and they'll pin it onto like a cardboard,
Hmm.
and because like they're bigger and then they'll cover it in paper. So that's like some ways around it, but it's
Mm.
not like a surefire way of like protecting the pins like a individual bag. So it's really up to you. It's your choice, but I
Hmm.
think yeah, that's what we're doing just to try to do a little better for at least our business. So yeah.
No, that's cool, and that's something that I think would resonate pretty deeply with anyone like purchasing from you. Like that's
Hmm.
just another like, oh, and they try and save the environment. This is really cool, and it ties into your national parks series.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like that. Talk to me about these additional initiatives that you have on your website. I saw SideQuest and I
Oh,
saw EXP Log, which I think is like your blog.
yeah.
Um, but they both seem very interesting, and I'd like to hear you explain both of them.
Okay. So side quest. So that's actually like more of a marketing ploy. it's it's just like some fun thing that I decided to add on, especially after when I did the convention. So it actually spawned off of the first potion pin I made, there was a mistake on it. And like being super OCD about it, I was like, I can't sell this. Like, it's like literally one line that no one would really notice, but I'm like, oh, but it bothers me. So, and plus like it had my old branding on it, like the cards and everything. So I ended up using that as like a giveaway when I was doing the 3-day convention. So I like figured like, oh, it'd be more fun if people were interacting with the booth instead of just like, here, give me your money. So I would do like a side quest. So basically like someone would come in and like they're looking at my stuff, it's like, oh, there's like a side quest, you want to do it, like you can get a free pin. And like it was just like really silly things like, play rock, paper, scissors with me. If you beat me, I'll give you a pin. And then
I love that.
and then I think another one was like, oh, because it was like an anime convention, right? It's like, oh, show me your victory pose, and then I'm gonna like take a picture of it, and then I would post it. So it was just kind of fun that people got into it, and like they didn't have to buy anything. It was just excess stock that I was now using as like marketing. So I just kind of took that, and I was gonna use it for all the multi-day cons because then I'll have plenty on me. But because it kind of everything shut down, I just kind of left it on my website saying that like if you buy more than $25, and if you're actually looking around the site and you stumble across this, like I'll throw in this free pin, and I just put it in my shop at like $888 for fun. But I mean it's free. Like it's free if you purchase $25 or more. Just because of the shipping cost, like I would totally send it to anyone for free, but shipping costs can add up. So I was like,
yeah.
Do a little bit for me and I'll do this for you. So, but it's more of like an in-person thing. Yeah.
I love that. My favorite part is being able to interact with everyone who comes to the booth.
Yeah.
So for you to kind of extend that to like fun side quests and not just like conversations about national parks or Studio Ghibli, there's nothing wrong with those conversations, but like you're offering more and you're just enhancing their experience while they're at your table, while they're at your booth. That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah. So I can't wait for like shows to happen again. Then I can really think of like more creative ways to, at least have more side quests and stuff. And it'll be something for people to look forward to. Cause like I was hoping with more shows, like when I return, it'll be something that people can look forward to and have fun with.
Yeah. Show me your hand sanitizer.
I know.
And then you get it. That's funny. And talk to me about EXP Log, which is your blog, blog?
Yeah, it's just a blog. It was just like a creative way to not use the word blog. So it was supposed to be a log of just, either like pin making stuff or just anything I thought of, but don't look at it because I haven't updated so long. Writing just takes a lot of work. So it's there, but I haven't been very up to date on it. But ideally it'd be somewhere to, log my experiences. It could be anything from pin making to like hiking to like, who knows, like whatever. It's just a blog.
Yeah, I think I saw like you kind of had like a couple blog related like posts, like probably talking about some pins. But then I think I also saw that you had some like how to make enamel pins and like guides and resources. And I think that's really cool. I think that's really important for businesses to kind of give value and resources like that kind of information for free. It'll draw you in. It creates good vibes. It creates trust. It creates authority, and ultimately, it'll just bring like people kind of like searching the internet how to make pins. Hopefully, to your website, because we get people like messaging our website every now and then. Hey, I want to make pins. It's like, well, how did you find us? And it was just like having a similar type of blog post. So I was just wondering if there was anything, any kind of strategy behind it, or if you were sharing anything particular.
No, not right now. Like in the perfect world, yes. But with everything else going on and like trying to manage all these different platforms, like it's been definitely at the bottom of my list, even though like, search engine optimization and like all that stuff, that's what it's contributing to. So, or like to the website's presence, right? Like it's actually pretty important. But to sit down and write, like it's not a strength. So I don't really, it's not the first thing I end up doing on my list.
Yeah, I can't do that either. That's why it's like sometimes I'll have the blog on and it's live and you can see like the 3 articles that we have.
Yeah,
and I'm just
you're like, oh they'll look.
There's only 3. I'm just gonna take this off. This is too
I know.
embarrassing.
Yeah. Ugh.
It's a love-hate battle.
It is. It is.
All right, so before we move on to the next topic, do you have any kind of social media marketing tips for any of our listeners, whether it's for Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok?
I mean, across all platforms, the key is like consistency. It's tiring and, keep your mental health in check first. It's not worth like trying to crank out stuff every single day. Consistency, try to have some kind of routine, I guess. You can reuse stuff, like that's always good too. But I mean, the algorithms are constantly changing. I think like just don't stress too much over it. Do your best. But I think like once shows are back on, those are your best bet to like connect with your audience, to find your audience and just kind of mold your brand from there. Yeah, social media is like, it's hard. It's definitely these days, like it's hard. I feel like if I had started maybe 5-6 years ago, I would be in a lot better position. But yeah, like I don't even know. I don't even know. I feel like I'm posting stuff. I'm like, I don't even know if anyone sees this anymore. Like, just here.
It's hard to kind of get down in the dumps about it when like less than 10% of your audience is seeing that, and it's because of the algorithm just kind of like bogging it down or pushing it away. If you're not paying, then a lot of stuff is just, it kind of feels like wasted effort, but it really isn't. It's not your fault. It's the algorithm. There's a bunch of people trying to get their posts out in front of you.
Ultimately, it's just good practice to like do better pictures and like, it's just good practice. I mean, just don't focus on the numbers too much, especially these days. Like it's just, you can't trust it. Not everyone your stuff. So.
And it's a vanity thing too. Like it really doesn't matter unless your account that's got like tens or hundreds of thousands of followers, then maybe it's but like, Instagram was testing out removing likes so you can't even see that anymore. So it's not something to get caught up on. Like, you might have 0 likes on a post, but are you getting sales from the post? Well, okay, then the likes don't really matter if you're slinging pins. But but good advice. Consistency is key for a lot of things in life.
Yep.
We kind of talked about vending at shows here and there throughout our conversation so far, but what I'm curious is if you've noticed any difference between the Patches and Pins San Francisco show that you did versus the Anime Con. I'm curious on, just your overall experience and how the events differed.
Yeah. Well, so when I did Patches and Pins, I think that was my first like bigger show, I guess. But San Francisco, I think, was like one of their smaller ones.
Oh, really?
And I don't think it was a big one based on like the number of people or like the number of vendors there versus like me talking to someone who did the Anaheim or Orange County one. I think that one's like their biggest one. So I think it's hard to compare like this SF Patches and Pins versus like an anime convention. And even the anime convention I went to was a smaller one. I mean, you're looking at like 1 day versus 3 days. And like the vendors, like I didn't actually get to meet too many of them. It also could be because it was my first show. So I had a friend come out, and I think like you get distracted with like whoever you're with. So you don't really end up talking to too many other people. But I was vending by myself for the anime one. So like it kind of forces you to, or not forces you, but I guess like you get to meet more people and it's a longer period of time. So, but I can see like, I think at like Patches and Pins, it was just really interesting to see the diverse number of people that kind of walk through and like just kind of meeting people. I think like most people were more interested in like the national park stuff because I mean, SF is close to, I think, Muir Woods and Redwoods. So there's like parks nearby. So it was always fun to hear people's stories. At the anime convention, like obviously everyone was more into the video game stuff, but it was like actually really refreshing to hear like every now and then there'd be someone who's like, oh, like I've been to this park and this park. I was like, oh, dude, that's awesome. Like I wouldn't expect you to, be interested or like notice this as well. But the audiences are like a little bit different, but overall, like everyone's really friendly. Like you can't really beat it. It's better than just sitting behind a computer and waiting for and getting an order. It's just a totally different experience.
Definitely. So you would say that it was well worth the efforts
Hmm.
of going to these shows.
Oh yeah, 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 definitely.
Yeah, because it's a lot, right?
Yeah. I think like I always end up procrastinating. Like right before the show, I'm like, what do I need? Like how do I want to set up my booth and all that stuff? Like there's a lot more thought that goes into it that you would really think. And then like once you get to the space, you're like, no, I'm gonna change it up. And it like everything just moves around. And like because San Francisco, like I was originally based in Southern California. So like bringing everything up to San Francisco, like that was also the
Mm.
logistics of that was interesting. Um, yeah, there's just a lot of work to it, but I mean, it's all well worth it. Like you're spending like I don't know how many hours just talking,
Oh my goodness.
and you're just
I,
like, oh my gosh, and if there's people waiting, you feel bad, and you're like trying to talk faster
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. I hate
but they're
that.
telling you a good story. And you're like, I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm sorry. But it's like it's all part of the fun, right? So it's great. Like one trade,
Yeah.
right?
I just want to talk to everyone, and it's like,
Yeah,
but there's someone here. I'm sorry. Like, I
yeah.
don't know what to do. Like, that's funny.
But they're always really understanding. They're like, no, 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 it's totally fine. Like, and they'll like get their purchase and they'll move on and you're able to shift your focus. But I mean, that's all part of the fun, like juggling all that and being able to have a common interest, right? That's why they're interested in the first place. So
Hmm.
being people.
I love one of my friends came out to help me with the patches and pins show, and
Hmm.
he was getting into the conversations with like these customers that I wasn't talking to. I was just kind of like, talking with someone, and then when I was done, I'd be like, yo, what are they talking about? And I'd
Yeah.
like join in on their conversation. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm just like, great. There's just a lot of awesome people, a lot of diverse
Hmm.
people, like you said. Um, and you have no idea where the conversations are going to go or what you guys are going to
Yeah.
talk about, but it's always, always, always such a good time.
Hmm.
Would you
Yeah.
say that's probably your favorite part about vending at shows?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like just meeting the people and then like getting to hear their stories and like what they're interested in and then like seeing them all excited about like, they see your work and then that sparked something that was
Hmm.
their experience and like they're super excited to share. And you're like, I don't even know you, but that's cool.
I love
So
that.
it's awesome.
So has it only been two shows that you vended at?
Yeah, like 2 major shows. So it's
Two
like
major
Patches and
shows.
Pins and then, the anime convention, which was 3 days. And then I've done, like, a bunch of little shows, and that's where, like, my greatest failures have been, but, like, it's whatever, it's fine. Like, it's, like, a great experience. So, like, it's like, what I mentioned earlier, like, one of them, I did, like, a mall show. So,
Hmm.
like, during the holidays, there's, like, small vendors in the malls sometimes.
It
So
makes
I did one
sense.
at
Holidays,
yeah,
vendors,
holidays. I'm like, people
gifts.
have to be buying stuff, right? And then I was just trying to fill it. Like, I literally just got started. So I was like trying to fill in weekends, especially around the holidays. I'm like, I need to get in front of people. So like I signed up for like I think 2 mall shows and both of them ended up being in the negative
Oh,
because I didn't make money from them. And then which was fine. Like I think, but I met like one of my neighbors, like she was like the sweetest lady making I think like chainmail or whatever, but she like cosplays. And I was like, I want to be just like you when I grow old. Like she was awesome. So it was totally worth it. And then I think another show I did was I actually packed my stuff and flew up to Seattle for like a flea market, like a weekend flea market for fun.
oh,
And
nice.
then like that one was like also a small show, but also met like another great artist out there. So those because those are more of like weekly kind
Hmm.
of shows, like the atmosphere is totally different. Like the kind of people that walk by are completely different. And I think it was just a great experience, but it also teaches me not to be like greedy and like
Yeah.
not to just go for whatever that comes around. So that was an interesting experience.
Mm. But it's not always about the profit.
No.
We just said this. You never know who you're going to meet at these shows, and it looks like you found a couple cool people to talk
Hmm.
to, have some conversation with. You inspired
Hmm.
someone who makes chainmail. They're gonna make
Yeah.
chainmail pins now, probably.
That'd be awesome.
Which is pretty cool. Do you have any tips for anyone looking to vend at shows? I have a feeling you're gonna say do your research and know who your audience is going to be at the
Do your
shows.
research. Uh, I think just try setting up before you go, just to get a feel of like how you want your stuff. I
Hmm.
guess I don't. It's hard. I feel like you just have to do your first show and just kind of see how you feel about it and kind of rework from there, right? So I
Okay.
mean, you should set up like for your first show, you should definitely try setting up at home just to get an idea of like how everything's gonna fit on 8x5 tape. I don't know how big tables are. Yeah, whatever size table that you have,
Mhm.
because you'd be surprised. There's actually not that much space. So
Yeah.
yeah, figuring out how to like lay everything out and just have all that stuff ready. But after that, yeah, you just kind of adjust from there. It's kind of hard to say.
No, you hit it. Like you do the best that you can at the time, you know. So your first show, you just got to give it all. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to be exposed
Mhm.
to all these different tables and all these different setups and stuff like that. So then you'll probably have a bunch of takeaways. Like my first table looked like doo-doo. Like it was just like the square pieces of corkboard that you would get at Walmart in like a
Mhm.
4-pack, and I would just put that on an easel. Like
Uh-huh.
it didn't look like that nice with just a couple pins just kind of scattered there.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's nothing kind of like what the setup that I have now. But that just came from going to these shows as a
Mhm.
spectator and as a vendor, like taking pictures, looking at their
Yeah.
setups and just trying to, you know, make it work for yourself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I actually used Pinterest to people post their show booths there.
oh,
So
look at
I was
that.
using that to like kind of just get ideas like, okay, what are people doing? How do they show their stuff? And yeah, that was like a good place to start.
I wish I started there. It was very difficult going through just like enamel pin hashtags and just like,
I know.
oh,
I know.
it's very difficult. But that's really cool. And the big takeaway is, you know, vending. If you can vend,
Mhm.
get out there, meet the people. It's a
Yeah.
completely different experience. So
It makes it
rewarding.
worth it. Like just doing all of this, right? Like getting to
Hmm.
talk to people face to face. Um, can't beat it.
You can't beat it. You're exhausted, but it's such a good
Yeah.
feeling.
Hmm.
Kristy, we're at the final portion of our podcast. This is going to be the Q&A. Kind of revamped this a little bit for this season. Got some
Nervous.
fun pin-related questions and then just some like fun pop culture questions. I wish I could say, let's put the timer on the clock as if this was some sort
No.
of game show or something like that.
I would not do well. I just be like, I don't know, pass.
All right. So, are you a soft enamel or hard enamel type of girl?
Hard enamel.
Nice. Why is that?
I've actually haven't really experimented with soft enamel, but I think hard enamel like gives you more detail from what I understand. And I've just again, I don't know if I'm like very good at exploring other things. If I'm happy with something, I'll probably stick with it. So that's why I've just always done hard enamel.
Hard enamel is nice, and it definitely works for your pins and everything like
Okay.
that. Do you like rubber backings or the metal butterfly backings?
Ooh. Okay. So I use for the national park stuff, I use metal because again, to stick with the whole like metal, like sustainability, like keep it like metal. I use that. But for everything else, I actually use rubber because I understand that like it does irritate the skin. I personally just use gold locking backs.
Nice.
So I didn't really answer your question.
No, none. Neither would have been an acceptable
Neither.
answer.
They're
Locking
not good
pin
enough.
the locking backs. Everyone's been saying that the locking backs are huge. I'd love to see that become like a regular thing in the
Yeah.
pin game.
Yeah.
Do you like dyed enamel pins or glow in the dark enamel pins?
Mm, I think, I mean, they're both really unique. I like how dyed enamel pins look, but I think like if depending on how you use the glow, I think you can work really well. But for now, I'll just say dyed.
Okay, cool. What's your favorite metal to make pins with?
I think it's zinc. I actually don't really know the metals that well. I want to say it's between iron, zinc alloy, right? And
Yeah.
then I don't, yeah. And I mean, iron's heavier. It's nice, but I actually don't really have I just go with whatever the manufacturer recommends.
Do you have
Like
like a particular color that you? Because I feel like I've seen a lot of gold
everything's
or
gold
everything's
except for
gold.
like two pins. Yeah, I just like gold more because it looks fancy. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you're right about that. It pops a little bit more.
Yeah, just a little bit. So I'm like, yeah, I'll just stick with this.
That little shine, little pinky out, a little fancy. I
Yeah.
like it. Are you hashtag pin game strong or pin game proper?
Pin game strong.
Nice. Are you a pin addict or pin collector?
Ooh. I don't know. I think collector, but I'm pretty sure I'm on borderline addiction.
Are you a pin trader or a pin hoarder?
Definitely a hoarder.
Yeah.
I was like,
Too many cool pins in the world not
I
to
know.
collect.
It's like,
What's your favorite place to wear a pin?
on my bag. I feel like, yeah, on my bag. I have like, I wear mostly like seconds and stuff because I can't stand like A grades getting scuffed up. So yeah,
Or
that's all I
lost.
have on there. Yeah, or lost. Yeah, that's the worst thing. That's why I never really liked rubber backs because I think I was testing like my first pin and it like fell off like the first day. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Ugh. Simpsons or Bob's Burgers?
Mm. I'm gonna say Simpsons because I grew up with them, but Bob's Burgers pretty good.
Yeah, they're both really good. I
I was like,
love seeing
oh.
people struggle with this one.
I was like, no.
Marvel or DC?
I'm gonna say Marvel.
Okay.
Marvel.
Comics or video games?
Video games for sure.
What is your like go-to console game combo?
I was on the Switch for a while because of Animal Crossing, but I'm pretty sure most of the stuff I played on was the PS4. I know the PS5 is out, but I'm like,
Hey, I'm still rocking my PS3.
nice, nice.
Just for the Blu-ray player, but
Oh, okay.
I'm with you on the Switch and Animal Crossing. Oh,
Yeah.
can't get enough.
Oh.
Are you into TV shows or movies?
I would guess I guess TV shows, but to be honest, I actually don't watch nearly as much as I used to. I feel like I spend most of the time just drawing stuff now.
Nice.
Yeah, so
I feel the same way. I'm definitely watching a lot less, which is good.
yeah, which is good because a lot of people are watching more because there's nothing much to do. I feel like
Yeah.
I know people that have like binged through so many different TV shows. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about anymore.
Perfect segue. What's the last thing that you binged?
Shoot, what did I binge? Oh, I actually binged Steven Universe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really good.
I got to get into that show. I've seen a couple episodes and was like pretty like entertained by it. Just haven't had the time.
Yeah. It's finding time. That's the hardest part.
Oh, it's always fleeting. But I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna do a little homework and then follow up. What's your favorite pizza topping?
Bacon. I like bacon on everything.
Oh, I think this is a first. I like that.
What do people normally say?
I've had the classic, just cheese pizza, Hawaiian pizza, but with sausage instead of ham, I think.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like a twisted combo there.
Uh-huh.
Pepperoni, but you're the first to just say straight up bacon.
I mean, bacon's so good. It's on everything.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm sure it would be delicious.
Yes.
That's not what I was expecting. I love it. Well, if we ever go out and get pizza, I'll be sure to treat you to some bacon pizza.
Yes, please.
If you had to remake one of your pins, which would it be and why?
So my mana potion, my blue magic potion, I have the wrong back stamp. It's a very literal reason. And that's like the only reason. I mean, everything else, like I like it for what it is. I don't know. I'm not very picky. I'm like, it made it into the world and I will accept it for what it is. I don't think there's much change I want.
I like that. That's good. What do you think sets you apart from some of the other pin shops out there?
There's a lot of good pin shops out there. I'm just kind of like a conglomeration of like, I feel like other pin shops I've kind of followed and like got inspiration from. So, I mean, overall just, I I don't know, like outdoor stuff, just, I don't know, hopefully the people behind the brand, like, it's just so hard to say. I don't really know. I'm like, I don't even know why we're here right now. Like, why you're having me, like, it's an honor. So,
Oh, stop it. I think I
no,
said this
seriously, I'm
before.
like, I don't know.
It's definitely, they fall in love with like the pin maker's story and your inspiration, and a lot of the times your enthusiasm and your passion can be just very contagious. And customers want to be part of that and they want to support that. And I have a feeling that's what they see in you.
I was like, thank you. I was like, I don't know what to say. I mean, we're all just here, like, just for, kicks. So, like, I'm just glad that people enjoy, like, what we're creating and, like, having fun with it. That's pretty much all we can really offer.
Yeah, no, you're doing a good job, and there's more than one reason why we're having you on as a guest on this podcast. So
Thank you.
no problem. And I like to end the podcast by asking everyone this question because I feel like everyone has their own little things, whether it's walking into an old bookstore and it's that wonderful smell of all those old pages, or maybe making it to the end of the week for their nightly pizza night with their friends. What are the little things in life for you?
I mean, just being here, just being present, like getting to go outside and getting some sunshine. Like, I mean, I feel like with the pandemic and everything, like you get to appreciate what's around you because you can't really get too distracted if you turn off your phone, that is. But yeah, I mean, just having this awesome conversation, meeting new people, even in this virtual world, like it's kind of crazy, like what we're all going through, but at least we're all going through it together, right? So I think everyone kind of has that similar experience, and it'll be something that we can relate to down the line for sure. But just being able to appreciate the everyday, that's what it is.
That might be the best answer I've heard. That's very wholesome.
Thank you.
I love it. Kristy, you've made it to the end of the Pin Pals podcast. How do you feel?
I'm alive. I'm like,
it wasn't
man.
that bad.
No, it wasn't. This is great. No, I really appreciate you like having me on. Like, especially, I feel like especially being such like a new maker, like I just, it's very intimidating to see like I feel like a lot of the people you've interviewed too have been in the game for a while. So it's like, this is like a huge honor that you've had me on. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Of course. Like you said, we're all just trying to do the same thing and get along. I think there's plenty of room for everyone at this pin game table, whatever you want to call it. But definitely saw something in your pins and your brand, and I had to like poke around your brain. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm very inspired after our conversation, and hopefully all of our listeners are too.
Thank you, everyone.
So I'm going to give you the floor. Tell the listeners where they can find you, kind of maybe what you have coming up in the future, any kind of links.
So you can find everything at expgained.com. That's where pretty much all my pins are. You can find me on Etsy too at EXP Shopco, but it's just there. But EXP Gained is where everything is most up to date. I'm on Instagram at EXP Gained. TikTok, I'm on EXP Gained. That's all. I was like, I don't want to let go of this handle. I somehow got it. But I just want to thank Eric again. Thank you so much for having me. And just, it's awesome meeting new people virtually through this past year. It's kind of weird. But it's been a great experience so far. So I can't wait to, make more and have more to share and hopefully meet people. Like, I think that's the biggest thing. I just want to meet people. It's going to be weird. It's going to be awkward because, we've all been inside for like a year, but it'll be great.
Right?
It'll be great.
Sorry, I forget how to, hello. I think I start off with hello, hi.
I know. It's like
handshake. This is weird.
Handshake. Why? Do we touch hands? Like, is that even normal anymore? Like, oh no. Sanitize. Like,
it's like, well, show me your Vax card first.
I know. Show me your Vax card. We can't talk until you have a Vax. It's going to be weird. It's going to be weird, but it's going to be great. Like, I'm sure everyone's excited to get back out.
Yeah. And hopefully, once this is all behind us, we'll find ourselves vending at Anime Con or Patches and Pins or somewhere down the road. Washington is a beautiful state. I got the good fortune of going there during the pandemic. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, I would love to go back. So if I'm ever in the area, or you're ever in the New York, New Jersey area, we'll have to link up and get some bacon pizza.
Yes, please.
Well, Kristy, once again, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. That's a wrap for this episode of Pin Pals. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And that concludes another episode of Pin Pals, episode 8 in the books. How about that? I want to sincerely thank Kristy for her time, knowledge, and expertise. Her insight was incredibly valuable, and I hope you guys feel the same way. Definitely take advantage of her discount code. I'm going to leave her shop and social links in the description or show notes, depending on wherever you're listening to this. If you guys have any feedback, comments, or questions about today's episode, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I would love the chance to talk to you guys. My email is thepinpalspodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit us up via the DMs. I'm the only one who checks that, @PinPalsPodcast. Would love a chance, like I said, to talk with you guys and figure out how to make this podcast even better. If you want to support Pin Pals, there are a number of ways that you can do so. Following and subscribing to the podcast wherever you're listening helps tremendously, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, now that we're on there. Doing so sends positive signals to the algorithm gods, and I think it helps increase visibility, so that definitely helps. If you've done so already, thank you. Like I talked about in the beginning of the episode, you can buy me a coffee, which is kind of like leaving a tip or a donation. Every dollar will get reinvested into the podcast in order to make it the best pin podcast that I can try and possibly make it. I also added some small tiers so you can support the podcast for as little as $1 every month. Link will be in the show notes / descriptions. Sharing the content with family and friends goes a long way, whether it's the podcast link, sharing our Instagram page or a post, maybe you're reposting some stuff. It all helps. Every bit counts. If you've been doing it, thank you. I know who you are. I see you. I appreciate you. You can also buy pins from the guests or my shop, Warrior Pins, and Apple Podcast listeners. You guys can help a ton by leaving a 5-star rating, and if you feel compelled, maybe even a review. And if you do so, I will read it on the air just like this one. Who knew pins could be so fun? The host does such an awesome job of holding my attention and making enamel pins an engaging topic. That was from my buddy Brett. Thank you, Brett. I really appreciate that. I believe that covers everything. I'm Eric from Warrior Pins. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, it's the little things in life. I'll see you next week.